And welcome to another episode of Pack Sports Zone. I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark, and we are back again for more football, more baseball, but mostly baseball today, as today we'll start off the wild card series as we try to see who will be in the AL NLDS. I'll go over each game as well as the series, preview the series that's going to be upcoming for the Mets, Yankees, and Braves. And then we'll talk a little bit football in the second half of the show. But let's start it off with the New York Yankees, as the New York Yankees will obviously be the number 2 seed in the AL. They will be obviously playing against the winner of the, of the Rays and Guardians, which actually played their first game earlier today. That one started off at 12 o'clock today, so that was an early start. And listen, pretty much what you have to say is the Yankees just have to figure out their pitching. Everybody knows they can hit the ball with anybody, so that's not an issue. They just need to be able to get enough pitching to move on. Now, just obviously the first thing to talk about this week is it wasn't really talking much about the team as it was about Aaron Judge, as Aaron Judge did hit number 62, the AL record. He hit it as to lead off the second game on Tuesday, to lead off the second game of a doubleheader against Texas Rangers. So that was gotten out of the way before anything can happen on the last day of the season. We didn't have to push it to that last day. So he did get that. However, he did not get the Triple Crown, as he ended up second, as he hit 311 this year. And the winner, Luis Arias, actually hit 316 for the Minnesota Twins. So what it's pretty much coming down to is Yankee fans, you can watch TV to watch the Rays and Guardians. Whoever wins that series this weekend, you'll be playing against them in Yankee Stadium, obviously. But the main thing now, if I'm a Yankees fan, I'm rooting for the Guardians. Now, Guardians won the first game today, 2-1. They were down 1-0 going into the bottom of the sixth, and their superstar, Jose Ramirez, hit a 2-run home run to win that game for them, and they shut in. Shane Bieber was unbelievable. 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, just dominated today. He didn't go 8. He went 7 2/3, I think it was, but 8 strikeouts. He was dominating today. And then their closer came in and finished it off for the last 4 outs. But right now, the Yankees, we all know that they have trouble with the Rays. They've had trouble with the Rays all year. So that is a team that I'm not sure you want to avoid, because you really can't avoid teams. But if you had your preference, if I'm a Yankees fan, I would prefer to go against the Guardians than go against the Tampa Bay Rays. It's just one of those matchups that just don't usually work out too well, that it'll be too close of a back and forth. I think with the Guardians, I think the Yankees punishing bats will be able to finally get enough in there that it won't have the same issue that it would against the Tampa Bay Rays, who just seem to go back and forth from it. It's a divisional matchup, and in divisional matchups, anything can happen. So it makes everything a little bit weird for the favorite. So Yankees will wait until next week. I think it's Tuesday that'll start off that series, if not Tuesday or Wednesday, but I think it's Tuesday, and they will play the winner of Guardians and Rays. Moving on to the other side, the National League, the New York Mets. Now, yes, they blew the 10.5 game lead. They have to play this weekend instead of getting the break like the Braves do and getting a bye. But on the good side, they won 101 games. That's a ridiculous amount of games to win. So it's a great season for the Mets. But now the season restarts now. Game is tonight, 8 o'clock. Yu Darvish versus Mad Max for game 1. And looks like for game 2, they're playing it by ear. It looks like as of right now, Chris Bassett will start game 2. And it all depends on what happens tonight. If the Mets win tonight, they'll be up 1-0, and they will start Chris Bassett for game 2 and hold DeGrom off for game 3. However, if, for example, and DeGrom may not even pitch the whole first series, but if, for example, they lose tonight, you will definitely see DeGrom on the mound for game 2. And in the third scenario, if the Mets win the first 2 games, obviously you won't see DeGrom at all for the first series, which is their ideal situation, so he can be game 1 of the next series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are in the Braves situation. They're just sitting there and waiting, going to be obviously watching that series, and it's similar to how it said the Yankees are on their side. They're going against either a Mets team that is a very good Mets team, won 101 games, or they're going against a divisional rival, which who knows, they may not want to see, may give them some trouble, the San Diego Padres. So either way, Dodgers are going to have a tough second round game because it's either going to be against a really good team in the Mets or a really possible up and coming division rival in the San Diego Padres. And we know that they've had some back and forth over the past couple weeks. So we'll see what happens in that situation, as that game will be going on tonight at 8 o'clock. Moving on to the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves now, they're going to be the number 2 seed in the National League. And they're just going to be waiting, just like the Dodgers. They will be waiting for the winner of the Phillies and the Cardinals. The Phillies and the Cardinals are actually going on right now as I speak. They're in the 7th inning, and it's a 0-0 game. You know, it's amazing that you see so many runs scored during the regular season. You see scoring records, teams averaging 6-7 runs per game. And every single year when it gets to the playoffs, every game is low scoring. It's just like that. People have to understand that you're facing the best pitchers in the postseason. You're going against the number 1s, the number 2s. When those guys come out, they will find a way to get the bullpen and they use just their best bullpen arms. You don't see people use the 8th and 9th bullpen guy now. You only see them using 5 at max 6. So everything changes where you're going against the toughest guys. So all these high-scoring teams, and that's the reason why I say that the Yankees have had a lot of troubles over the past 10 years or so trying to get back to the World Series, because they have so many good hitters, so many power hitters. But 2 things that they're missing: 1, they need more depth at pitching, and 2, they need some guys that make contact. They don't need 9 guys to hit home runs. You got to have at least 2 guys, if not 3 guys in the lineup to make contact, because when you're going against a tough pitcher, it's tough. It's really tough to make contact. It's tough to get string together 2-3 hits in a row. So you got to be able to make contact and put more pitches on that top pitcher, get him out again, get to the bullpen. It's a very tough situation. So speaking of that, you're talking about a Braves team that does strike out a lot, and they need to make contact. They do have a few contact hitters in there, whether it's Travis d'Arnaud. It's weird. They're high percentage guys like Swanson. Even he strikes out a lot. So it's a weird combination, and it can worry Braves fans, but they found a way to make it work so far. We'll see if it works in the postseason. They'll, as I said, will be playing the winner of the Cards and the Phillies, and they will not have Spencer Strider. As they said, it's a possibility he may come back for that series, but they can't guarantee it right now. So they may not be without their young, hard-throwing right-hander when they come back for that series. So it's going to be a very interesting situation for them. They got the break. They came from way back. Great comeback from 10.5 games down to catch the Mets. And they found a way to do it. So it's just one of those situations where you don't know what their playoff roster is going to be. You can pretty much sum it up in your head what it is, though. But the biggest thing about the Braves is making sure they have those same 5-6 guys at the back of their bullpen, because they have between Fried, between Morton, if Strider comes back, between 21-game winner Kyle Wright, if they have the same 5-6 guys at the back of the bullpen, it's going to be tough to beat them. With that said, moving on to pretty much the last bracket to talk about is the Houston Astros bracket. The Houston Astros won 106 games this year. They were the best team in the AL. They were the second best team in baseball. And now they're going to be playing the winner of the Seattle Mariners, who are the darlings of this year, the team that nobody really expected to make the playoffs, the team that hasn't won a playoff series in God knows how long. You have that Seattle Mariners versus the Toronto Blue Jays, who are also a very, very good team. And that game is actually starting now as I speak, as it's 4 o'clock. So that game is actually starting right now. And it's a fun time, actually, for all these baseball games. You get to see games all through the day. They're very important games. Most of them are very close games. They're low-scoring games. So the pressure is up. The intensity is up. The crowd, when they have a chance to score, you can hear them rising to their feet. When their pitcher is trying to strike out a guy in a big situation, you can hear the nervousness. Like, it's really great. Playoff baseball is really great if you can get into it. But the Astros, they've been calm and cool all year. We obviously know they made it to the World Series last year and lost to the Atlanta Braves. They would love to get back there again. Verlander has been leading that pitching staff, and obviously he would love to get another World Series ring. But that's just a team right now that's on cruise control. I think they're better than both Seattle and Toronto. I think I think honestly, there's really no reason that it shouldn't be the Yankees versus the Houston Astros in the ALCS, and I think that's what everybody's expecting. While in the NL, it's a little bit different. It's pretty much who comes out of that Dodgers-Mets series, because everybody said that it's a 3-team race in the NL with the Braves, with the Dodgers, with the Mets, and obviously the Braves lucked out and will be on the other side of that bracket as the other two beat each other up in what will be the NLDS next week, unless the Padres could throw a little wrench into that. But moving on to the football side of things, the New York Giants. Giants will be in London this week against the Green Bay Packers. And I have to tell you, first of all, going over the game last week, that you look at how they played. They played against the Chicago Bears. It was an ugly game. The defense played solid. Daniel Jones, once he got hurt during the game, hurt his ankle. He didn't play well really before he got his ankle hurt, as he had 71 yards passing and was 8 of 13. He did most of his damage running, as he had 6 rushes for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. But he couldn't get the offense going within the air. Tyrod Taylor came in after he got hurt, and he ended up getting hurt as he got a concussion. He made a big run to try to get a first down. He took a shot in the head, and Daniel Jones came back into the game, but didn't throw, as they ran a couple wildcat plays with Saquon Barkley in the backfield, and they held on to win that game 20-12, as Barkley had another monster game, 31 carries, 146 yards. Their leading receiver was Daniel Bellinger, the rookie tight end, as he only had 3 catches for 23 yards. Barkley chipped in another 16 yards to the ground. It's another 160-plus type rushing/receiving day for Saquon Barkley. So once again, he's carrying the Giants right now. They're 3-1. You would have never thought you would say the Giants are 3-1 at this point in the season. But now they're going against the Green Bay Packers. And that's a really, really, really tough situation right there. You're talking about a team in the Packers that are coming off a win against the New England Patriots. They were playing against, first of all, playing against a backup, and then the backup got hurt, so they end up playing now against the third string, and Bailey Zappi, and that didn't work out too well for New England. Made it a close game. It was a good game, but Packers did win it in the end. And listen, the Packers are a team that needs to come together offensively. We know they're going to run the ball a lot with Aaron Jones and with A.J. Dillon. Rodgers has not had to pass the ball as much as he usually has in the past, but he doesn't have a Devontae Adams or the type of wide receiving group that he used to. So it's a little bit different Packers team, as you got to stop the run. So that's going to be the main priority for the Giants this week. They got to be able to stop the run, because they're not going to score much points. It's going to be if you thought it was all on Saquon before, it's going to be even more on Saquon this week, because Galladay is out. And obviously, Galladay may not be most Giants' favorite wide receiver, but he's a threat. Wan'Dale Robinson is out. Obviously, Kadarius Toney is still not playing. We know about Sterling Shepard being done for the year. Their top 3 wide receivers, when they play this week, will be Richie James, Darius Slayton, and David Sills. That is disgustingly bad. That is really, really bad. That is like unthinkably. Like, out of those 3 wide receivers, maybe one of them should be actually on the roster. If you want a good team, maybe one of those guys make your 5th wide receiver or 6th wide receiver. It's a bad situation right now for the Giants, where they will not, between Daniel Jones being hurt, even though he's practiced this week and he's going to play. So Daniel Jones is back, but he hasn't been playing well passing the ball. You don't want him running the ball too much because he has a bad ankle, and you have horrible wide receivers right now. It's going to be all on Saquon Barkley. This game could get a little ugly if the Packers are able to stop the run against Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants. So we'll see what happens this week, but tune in early, as that will be a 9:30 game. So get up early and watch your Giants versus Green Bay. Moving on to the New York Jets. The New York Jets, last week was actually a really, really good win. I have to give them a lot of credit for how they played last week. They never gave up. They were playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Zach Wilson made his season debut. Wasn't great, I'll say that. He was 18 for 36, 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He chipped another 15 yards on the ground rushing, but he found a way to win the game. That's the biggest deal. I said the biggest thing about this season will be how he progresses. So, and I said, and in the first game of the season for him, you had to almost give him a break. So, and Pittsburgh is not a bad defense. They actually have a pretty good defense. So, I think this was a good first start for Zach Wilson. He's got to learn not to turn the ball over. And the biggest thing is I think Breece Hall is finally starting to break out as the guy. He outcarried Michael Carter 17-9. He had 66 yards and a touchdown. He also was very crucial for them. He chipped in another 12 yards on the ground. But every week now you see him getting at least 60 yards on the ground, whether he's getting the most carries or not. He started to take over, and he was the first running back taken in this draft. He was the top choice. He was the second round pick for the Jets. And you knew he would eventually take over from Michael Carter, and he seems to be doing that right now. They need to continue to feed him the ball. Another good game for Corey Davis, 5 catches, 74 yards and a touchdown. He's been extremely consistent for them. Garrett Wilson had 2 catches for 41 yards. He's going to have his up and down games as a rookie. Overall, you can see the flashes in him, and you can see he's going to be good. It's going to take him more than a couple games to get adjusted to the NFL and the speed of the NFL, because in college, he was just so good compared to going against other college guys. Now he's going against grown men, but you already seen the flashes for him. You've seen him had the 100 yards and 2 touchdowns and the game winner. So, as I said, the Jets right now are in a good situation on offense. They just need to play a little bit better on defense, and their offense actually should get a little boost this week as they get back Dwayne Brown, their left tackle. He will be back at left tackle this week. The guy who was playing, Elijah Vera Tucker, he will actually move back to his natural position at right guard, and which means that the Jets will have the entire offensive line set and ready to go for the first time this season, as Dwayne Brown got injured right before the first game. But now everybody is healthy on the offensive line, so you have everybody healthy at wide receiver. Everybody's healthy at the running back. You got Zach Wilson back there. Next week should be the true Jets offense. And it's going to be a tough situation because they're going against the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins we know can score points, but they do not have Tua Tagovailoa. He's out, obviously, with a concussion. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but for Jets fans' purposes, it just matters that he won't be here this week. And you obviously listen, Sauce Gardner has been very good so far, and now he's going to get his biggest challenge because now he's going to go against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That is a next level type of challenge for Sauce Gardner. So we're going to see really if Sauce Gardner was really worth a top 5 pick. Now, I don't want to get on him so early. He is a rookie. So I understand if he doesn't do great this week against those 2 top receivers, but it's going to be fun to watch it, though, because that's a lot of speed. You got Sauce is already a cocky guy. He's a little bit confident guy, which you like, especially at cornerback. Tyreek Hill thinks he could beat anybody, and Jalen Waddle is kind of the same way. So it's going to be a lot of talking on the outside between the Dolphins and the Jets, between Sauce Gardner and the Miami Dolphin wide receivers. So it's going to be really fun to watch. Like that should have his own cam just to watch whoever he's guarding. It should just be a one-on-one cam just to see how well he does that game, because this is going to be the biggest test for him. But the Jets, they have to continue improving on offense. I think they will get better on defense. And listen, the Jets right now, I think they're in a good situation. They're 2-2. They're playing against a divisional rival right now that is missing their starting quarterback and going against Teddy Bridgewater, a guy they know, obviously, from a couple years ago. I think it's a good situation for the Jets, and I think the Jets have a legit chance to try to win this off. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. That game will be in New York, so you'll be able to see that. And also, just as I speak, just a quick update. The St. Louis Cardinals have taken a 2-0 lead over the Philadelphia Phillies in the bottom of the 7th inning. But I want to talk quickly about last night. Last night, the Thursday night game, we had obviously the Denver Broncos and Indianapolis Colts. It was arguably one of the ugliest games I've ever seen in my life. It was just a disaster to watch. Both quarterbacks were horrible. Both offensive lines were horrible. Drop passes, missed throws. It was just really, really, really bad. And I don't want to ignore saying the defenses aren't good because Denver has a solid defense. Indianapolis has a solid defense. But this was about how bad the offense was because there was open guys that just were missed by Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan. And obviously, most of the talk today is about Russell Wilson because the Colts won the game 12-6. There was no touchdowns in the game. It went to overtime 9-9. And Colts went down, got the field goal. Denver went down the field and went for it on 4th and 1 inside the 10-yard line, and they could not get the first down, even though there was a wide receiver wide open, KJ Hamler, on a similar play to Seattle's play where Russell Wilson threw the interception. And I don't know if he had flashbacks and they were making jokes about that yesterday on the set, but he didn't make the throw. He ended up throwing late across the middle. It was knocked down by Stephon Gilmore, and that ended it for the Denver Broncos. And it was such a bad game that people actually started leaving the game. Denver Broncos fans started leaving the game before overtime started. It was just an ugly, ugly game. It's not exactly what you want to hype up the Amazon Prime Thursday night show, but it was just... Point I'm trying to make about that is that Russell Wilson is not his normal self right now. Now, I personally said that you could see Russell Wilson starting to decline after he got his hot start in 2020. He had a very hot start in 2020. He ended the year slowing down. And then last year, obviously, even though he had a good year statistically, to me, he wasn't the same type of player. He was a guy who before where third down completion, third down conversions were very high because he could use his legs. You never could get him down on third down because he was so elusive. He would find that guy that you out of nowhere to get that first down. And I didn't see that in the past year and a half. And it's just gotten worse this year. He can't move around the same way. He can still move around a little bit, but he can't move around the same way he did before. And it's troubling to me if you're a Denver Broncos fan because you have a guy that's 34 years old. He's already starting to slow down a little bit with his legs, and the legs are a very important part of his game. And his arm, his arm is still fine, but he's missing throws high, wide, into the ground. He's not seeing wide receivers. He's missing throws that he shouldn't be missing yet. And they're going to have him after this year's done. They still got him under contract for 6 more years. He already had 2. He had this year and next year under contract, and they gave him a 5-year extension at $245 million a year, $49 million a year. That's a lot of money. That even if they decide to cut him after the next 3 years, first, that's going to be a very long 3 years, and 2, it's still going to count against the cap where it's going to kill you a good certain amount. So they're in a bad situation right now. I don't know what they're going to do, but they got to figure out something because it's sad right now. It's you look at somebody like Russell Wilson, he seems to be a good guy, seems to be a nice guy. He's very good in his community. I know that. And after the post game, every post game that Russell Wilson does, he always ends up with saying, Broncos country, let's ride. And if you heard the way he said it last night, he looked like, it was one of the saddest things you can ever see and hear. Like, he barely could get it out of his mouth. He was like walking away, not even looking at the press as he's saying it. It was just like depressing to see how down he was. So it's a bad situation right now for Denver. The good part is they do have 2 wins so far. They are 2-3. The good part for Indianapolis is that Indianapolis actually finally got their second win, and this is a game they shouldn't have won. I mean, what the Indianapolis Colts have done is they hung in there and won games at the end. They did that against Kansas City. They did that last night against Denver. So you got to give credit to Colts. They find a way to stay in games, and they did it without Jonathan Taylor. as Nyheim Hines, who came in there, had one carry, and he was out for the rest of the game. So it was a very, very tough situation for the Indianapolis Colts last night. So they have a little bit of a pass because so much of their offense is surrounded around Jonathan Taylor that you already knew that it was going to be a little bit tough for them as they put in Nyheim Hines. And then when Hines gets knocked out in the first play again for a concussion, then now you know everything's screwed up. So you kind of knew that it was going to be a little bit of a struggle. Alec Pierce did have a good game for Indianapolis, so at least there was that. But it's a tough situation for them right now. And listen, the season for the Indianapolis Colts is going to be very up and down. They're lucky they're in a division where it doesn't seem like nobody's going to run away with it. And we'll see if the Titans, because they've won 2 in a row, if they can continue their run as they go against Washington this week. And that leads into my Titans report. As the Titans, as I said, will play Washington this week. They will be going to it with a lot of people missing. So, Bud Dupree, out. Amani Hooker, out. Treylon Burks, out. Zach Cunningham, out. So, those are 4 starters that are very good starters. All impact players that are all going to be out for the Titans this week. It's going to be a tough situation. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game because of missing those 3 big guys on defense. And on offense, we'll see what happens. I think Kyle Phillips is going to have to be a big part of the offense now because they really have nobody else. If you tell me that Cody Hollister is going to be a big part of the offense, Titans are going to lose. I'll just tell you flat out, Titans are going to lose. So it's pretty much 3 wide receivers right now. As you're telling me, after Robert Woods, you're going to have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and you have Kyle Phillips. That's it. Those are your top 3 wide receivers for the Titans. So it's a notch better. It's better than the Giants that I mentioned earlier, but it's not too much better. It's going to be a lot of Derrick Henry. And obviously he was upset last week because even though they won because they were so bad in the second half. And they've been bad in the second half every year. And I'm going to keep saying it until they finally score another second half point. They have played 4 games and they have 7 second half points so far for the whole year. They scored 7 points against the Giants in week 1, and they have not scored a second half point yet. They've been horrible in second half of games. And you can see how frustrated that Derrick Henry was last week when they asked him about it. That you would think that after getting a win, after breaking 100 yards, after being over 140 for the game, you would think he'd be happy. And no, he wasn't, because they're not closing out games good. They're not playing well in the second half. They should be taking these teams out and cutting them off at the throat, ending them, and then they're not doing that. They're giving teams a chance to come back. They gave a chance to the Raiders, and now they gave a chance last week. So they've got to play better than they have last week. Last week, obviously, Tannehill, he was a game manager. 17 for 21, 137, 2 touchdowns. Henry, he had 22 for 114 as he finally broke 100 yards, and he threw in another 33 yards in the air. He had, obviously, a touchdown. It was big to see Chig Okongwu get a touchdown last week. He had 3 catches for 38. You can start to see him waking up, where you can see the talent that he has, that he could be their number 1 tight end next year, and maybe the number 1 tight end by the end of the year, because you go down the list of their other tight ends in Austin Hooper, and he had 1 catch for 4 yards. So maybe by the end of the year, you may see Chig be the starting tight end by the end of the year, because he is fast, he is athletic, he has a little bit of Jonnu Smith in him, so I know the Titans would like that. He's a very good athlete, so he could be one of their answers to solve at tight end this year. But when it all comes down to it, the Titans just got to play better in the second half. If they play better in the second half, they'll find a way to win. And the biggest thing about the Titans right now this year is they're not going to be favorites. Nobody's going to expect them to win. And that kind of plays into their hands, because their playing style is, let's run the ball, let's take the air out of the ball, let's run the clock, let's make it a close game and win at the end. That's the only issue they're having right now, is they're not closing at the end, because that style is a perfect style when you're the underdog. It's horrible when you're the favorite, because then you keep these bad teams in the game. But when you're not the favorite, that style is perfect to try to keep you in games against top teams, which is why they pretty much over the years, all Titans fans know they beat top teams and they lose to bad teams is because of that style. But the thing about it is if you play that type of style, you got to make big plays late to win the game. And that is one thing the Titans aren't doing right now. If they play well the last 5 minutes of games, they could start getting on a big roll. But I don't know if they can do that right now. And I'm not here to blame any one person. I'm not here to just blame Downing, even though I think he's part of it. I'm not here to just blame Tannehill, even though I think he's part of it. I'm not here to just blame the wide receivers, even though I think they're part of it. I think everybody has to play better. The line has to block better. Henry has to run better. The wide receivers got to run better routes. Tannehill's got to make better reads. Donna's got to make better play calls. I think everybody has to play better, and I think eventually it could work out for them. But they've got to play better at the end of the games because they're giving teams, everybody they play against has had a chance to beat them. They obviously let the Giants stay around, and the Giants beat them. They let the Raiders stay around, and they almost came back. And then last week, they let the Colts stay around, and they almost came back. You can't let that happen. And then what makes it even worse, if you do start out bad, like against the Buffalo Bills, then it steamrolls and you go all the way down. So Titans are going to have to make some changes. Not sure how they're going to do it, but they got to find a way to get it done. But with that said, that pretty much ends the episode. Once again, here at Pack Sports Zone, I'm your host, Peter Pac-Man Clark. Just a final update on the games going on right now. St. Louis Cardinals up 2-0 against the Philadelphia Phillies in the top of the 8th. The Seattle Mariners are up 3-0 right now in the top of the 2nd against the Toronto Blue Jays. I will catch you next week where we'll talk about, obviously, the NLDS games and the ALDS games. We'll get to talk about the Yankees, the Astros, the Braves, the Dodgers, and who their opponents will be starting out on Tuesday. But till then, enjoy the football this weekend, enjoy the playoffs this weekend, and I will catch you next week. Peace out.